Great to be back on air at CNN 10, and we're happy to see you and hope you enjoyed the Thanksgiving weekend. I'm Carl Azus. Our first down the middle report today focuses on a new study by the U.S. government concerning the issue of climate change. A federal climate assessment has been required by Congress since 1990. The latest one came out Friday. It reportedly involved 13 government agencies, the help of 1,000 people, 300 of them being scientists from inside and outside the government, and it included a number of warnings about what could happen as a result of climate change. The report says cities could get hotter, sea levels could rise higher, covering land with water, hurricanes could get more destructive, wildfires would scorch more land, thousands of more people could die every year because of higher temperatures and more widespread diseases, and all of this could cost the U.S. alone hundreds of billions of dollars per year. A scientist with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says that increasing temperatures worldwide, quote, can only be explained by human activities. Many scientists blame fossil fuel emissions for contributing to warmer temperatures. That's a controversial part of the issue of climate change because not everyone agrees with it. Last month, before this report came out, U.S. President Donald Trump said he thinks something's changing in the climate, but that it would change back again, and he wasn't convinced that people caused the changes. And the Heartland Institute, a nonprofit American think tank that supports skepticism about the human impact on climate change, suggests the new government report is similar to its previous reports, except that this one is more exaggerated and less scientific. The government's climate assessment comes out every 4 years. It doesn't give specific recommendations on how to deal with the issue. 10-second trivia. The Black Friday gold scandal of 1869 occurred during the administration of what president? Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, or Grover Cleveland? It was in the fall of 1869, under the presidency of Ulysses S. Grant, that Black Friday took place.
Black Friday. Sounds kind of scary. And it was. Black Friday first referred to the collapse of the U.S. gold market in 1869. A century later, Philadelphia police used Black Friday to describe chaos and congestion. Downtown streets were clogged with hordes of shoppers headed to the big department stores. Retailers hated the term, but then tried to reinvent it. It was the day their profits went from red to black. So they said. Black Friday really started catching on in the 80s and 90s, pushed by the growth of big box stores. Today, it's all about bargains, and Black Friday's dark roots are for the history books.
So today, Black Friday traditionally refers to America's busiest shopping day of the year, and retail analysts believe this year's holiday shopping season, which runs from November 1st through Christmas Eve, could set records. Some reasons: the U.S. economy is doing well. Unemployment is very low. There have been some increases in Americans' average income. And all that likely factors into a projection from the financial services company MasterCard. It estimates that Americans spent $23 billion on Black Friday alone. That's more than $70 for every person in the country. The day after Black Friday was another day of large-scale protests in France. It started last month as a campaign against rising gas prices. That was one of the effects of the increase in crude oil prices seen in October. And many French are also upset about tax increases on diesel and gas. That discontent grew to be in opposition to the government and policies of French President Emmanuel Macron. A protest organizer blames a small group of the extreme left and the extreme right for the reason why some protests turned violent.
Not exactly the kind of scene you'd expect along the Champs-Élysées the day after Black Friday. In fact, nobody is here this evening on a Saturday night, basically because the police have cleared everybody out. It's after a day of some very heavy demonstrations here, some very violent protests that began a week ago. These were the protests brought on, called the Yellow Jackets. These are our yellow vests. These are the vests that all motorists are required to have in their cars for safety reasons. And it's very simple for people to join this movement just by going to their car and getting out their yellow vest. And so numbers of people have. According to the Interior Minister, there were about 106,000 protesters today. That compares to about 250,000 or 80,000 last week. So in some ways, the government had a success in that there weren't so many protesters out there. But in other ways, the violence violence of this protest today was unmatched anywhere along the line. In fact, one of the most violent demonstrations the Champs-Elysees has ever seen, I think, as these protesters went up and down the avenue, set alight barricades and all sorts of vehicles along the avenue, including a police car. There were, in fact, about 130 people arrested across France and about 42 people arrested here in Paris. So a violent day here in Paris. It seems to be over for now, but in fact we'll have to see how well it plays with the demonstrators going forward.
Chances are you've used a Google product today. If you checked your email, shopped for a deal on Cyber Monday, or just gone online, which we're banking you have, you probably used something built by Google. But a big question being asked is whether the company has grown to become a monopoly, a business with so much control that it dominates a market.
Is Google a monopoly? Let's talk about why some people think that it is. And when you talk about monopolies, the first thing you want to do is define what the market is. Let's take its ad business. Google currently controls 37% of all digital ad sales in the US, and that's almost double the next biggest company, which is Facebook. That is a huge number for what is the single highest growing sector in all of advertising. So if you look at the market of online ad revenue, Google is dominant. But if you ask Google, it'll tell you that no, the market isn't digital ad revenue. It's actually all ads. It's TV, it's print, it's billboards. So Google controls 37% of the digital ad market in the US. But if you expand it out to include the broader market of all ads in the US, it's only about 14%. But that's still more than the entire print industry. And every year, digital ads are taking a larger and larger slice of the overall pie. We're not comparing Google to single companies here. We're comparing it to entire industries. That's how big Google is. And that size is exactly what antitrust critics are pointing to when they say that Google is too big. They also say that Google highlights its own products and its search results over that of other companies. The real estate of a Google search page is some of the most valuable in all of the internet. And over the last few years, Google has added more and more Google products to it. Here, let's take an example. Let's type in mattress. Literally, the entire screen is either Google Ads or Google Shopping page. Now, Google says it does this because this helps people find information faster and that its products are better than its competitors. But others say that it makes competition with Google impossible. And those Google products that Google happens to highlight, they also happen to make Google billions of dollars in revenue, helping users, but also helping Google. You can see that same dynamic play out with Chrome, because Chrome is by far the biggest browser. Safari, Internet Explorer, Firefox, all combined make up about 20% of the browser market. Chrome alone has 3 times that number. And controlling how the majority of people access the internet gives Google power. Power to do things like flip a switch and turn ad block on. Now, Google says they did this because this is something that users want and it protects them. But Google's ad block doesn't filter out all ads, just harmful ones. And Google ads? They're still acceptable. So did Google put ad block on Chrome because it helps its customers or because it helps its ad business? Look, people like Google and the products that they make. And a lot of Google's moves do make it easier for people to get information quickly and clearly. But this is the tough situation that antitrust regulators find themselves in. Actions that might help users in some ways can also be a threat to fair competition. But here's the question. With Google being so dominant, is there any room for the next Google? Is Google just too big?
An award-winning designer has envisioned a sort of self-driving hotel room. After undocking from a larger hotel that has a pool and a gym, your own mobile unit with a workspace, a mattress, sitting shower, and tiny kitchen would then be able to get you where you're going while you stayed put. But all this could be decades away. Fully self-driving cars aren't expected to be ready until 2021, and roads won't be ready for them for at least 10 years. So only time will tell if the rules of the road will make room on the road for a room on the road. If this is the best Western way to travel, if folks will want to travel while spending days in a hotel room, guess it depends on whether the Mobile suggests a deal on wheels or leaves little room in the budget for staying anywhere else. I'm Carl Lazouse for CNN 10.